Is this thing on? Hello. We just got back from overseas, and quite literally overseas. We went on a 12-day, 11-night cruise from Sydney to New Zealand, and we went all around the North Island of New Zealand, and it was beautiful, and I feel like I have so much to catch you up on, so I thought I would unpack and let's have a chat. And I'm just going to clip this somewhere. Is that going to work? Okay, hopefully that'll work. So I'm feeling pretty exhausted. We got back day before yesterday, still haven't unpacked clearly, and we got in really late at night because we had to fly back from Sydney. The ship got into Sydney, we then got a train to the airport, we then flew to Melbourne, and we had a 1-hour delay, and then we had to drive all the way back home to the country where we live, so that was like a 2.5-hour drive. So it was a very, very long trip home. I got a little bit sick towards the end of the cruise. The last few days I started to get a bit of a sore throat and a headache and a bit of a cold, like a head cold, and you can probably tell from my voice that I'm still recovering. So it has been a lot the last few days, but we had a really awesome time, and I thought I would unpack and tell you a bit about what we got up to. We started off our trip driving up to Melbourne. We had a night in Melbourne, and then we flew early the next morning from Melbourne to Sydney. And then we had a really beautiful day in Sydney. We actually walked around a whole bunch. We were traveling with a couple of friends, and so we explored the city a bit together. There's a little bit of sand in my suitcase because we went to the beach at one point. But yeah, Sydney was really nice. We had a beautiful dinner at a Japanese restaurant. We stayed in North Sydney, which was actually awesome. We stayed at the Vibe Hotel. Alex and I have stayed there before when we had a cruise last year, and it's not too far from the port. So the next morning we actually got an Uber. The last time Alex and I walked across the bridge, but we didn't do that this time. We did walk across the bridge the day before the cruise, but we had so much luggage because it was such a long cruise. It's actually the longest cruise that I've ever been on, the longest cruise Alex has ever been on, and for our friends, it was their first ever cruise. So they were really game booking an 11-night cruise for their first cruise. And so what we did is we cruised from Sydney, and it takes off from the Sydney Harbour, which is so beautiful, and you cruise out to the Tasman Sea, and that was a very, very rough sea. So we had 3 full sea days at the start of the cruise, and we both got a little bit seasick. We took some seasickness tablets with us, luckily. That was the roughest, was actually those first few days. And you know, sea days I find are really fun on a cruise ship. You do a whole bunch of activities. They had seminars on. They actually had this amazing marine biologist, and she was awesome. So we went to a couple of her talks. Of course, there's so much food on a cruise ship. On the Carnival Splendor, which is what we took, they have a burger joint, Guy's Burger Joint. They have an Indian restaurant, Masala Tiger. They have, of course, the buffet is open for every meal. We really enjoyed our dinners in the main dining room. So that's kind of like, it's all included on the cruise, but that's kind of where you would normally go for dinner, unless you'd prefer like a more casual buffet. And they also have some specialty restaurants, which we didn't do because we didn't really feel the need for it, but the main dining room is kind of the highlight for me. Every evening you get a 3-course meal. They also do what's called elegant nights. And so because it was such a long cruise, we had 3 elegant nights where you can dress up. You can wear a suit, you can wear a beautiful dress if you want, or you can just go casual. You don't have to dress up. But we got into it and we got dressed up. Alex wore a suit. I took a few nice dresses. And so, yeah, I think the first few days we had one elegant night, and we just kind of explored the ship and did some of the activities. We did a lot of trivia. They have a daily puzzle, like a Sudoku and a crossword that you can do. So just a bit of fun for the first few days, apart from getting a little bit seasick. And then, this is pretty much, by the way, half my suitcase is shoes. I think I slightly overpacked, and like I said, there's a bit of sand in here. I just wasn't sure. For such a long cruise, I didn't want to not have enough stuff, but I probably could have taken 1 or 2 less pairs of shoes. I might just leave them in there because they're a bit sandy. And by the way, I am obsessed with these packing cubes. If you have not ever used these, they are so handy. I think we just got ours off Amazon, and they come in a set of these different like zip up bags, I guess you'd call them, and you can separate your different types of clothes out. So I think in this one I've got pants, this one I've got looks like t-shirts and gym gear. I did actually go to the gym most days. I have committed to doing yoga again every day this year, which I did pretty much for the most of last year. I did a video called 100 Days of Self-Care or something like that last year, and I talked about my journey of getting back into yoga and walking every day, and that was the two things that I really wanted to keep up, three habits that I really wanted to keep up while we were away, was going to do my yoga every day. So they have a gym on board, and a couple of times I used the treadmill and Alex did a bit of a workout, and then I would go do yoga they have like a little fitness studio that you can go, unless it's being used by a class, because sometimes they host like Pilates classes or fab ab classes and things like that. You can just use it yourself. So I would go in there, they've got yoga mats, and do my yoga, and then I would make sure to get 10,000 steps a day. That was like my two kind of health and fitness commitments that I stuck to. And then also journaling every night before bed. That's something that Alex and I have been doing for like pretty much the whole last year. We've been doing that every single night. So yeah, I took a coffee tumbler, like a reusable coffee cup, but didn't end up really using it much because the coffee machines that they have are not very good anymore. They were really good last time we went on a cruise, but not so good. But they do have like drink stations where you can fill up a water bottle. So I took a water bottle as well. I feel like I'm kind of jumping all over the place. So we had a few days at sea, like I said, and then on the 5th day, so essentially it was 4 full days because we had the day that we got on the ship, and that was around 11ish. So we had the whole full day, and then we had 3 full days at sea, so essentially 4 days. And then on the 5th day, we got into Wellington, and I actually loved Wellington. We just did a bit of a walk through the city, and they had all these volunteers at every single port stop in New Zealand. They had volunteers handing out maps of the city and telling you a little bit of information about what there was to do, and I thought that was fantastic. We had this really great volunteer on the first day tell us essentially what to do for the day. So we went for a walk. We then took the cable car up to the top of a mountain, and there was this absolutely stunning view of Wellington and the bay and the water. Then we went for a walk through the botanical gardens, and I think that was actually one of my highlights of the whole trip. Walking through the botanical gardens, they were absolutely stunning. There were these beautiful flowers and bumblebees, and Alex and I got a few new birds, which is really exciting for our life list. We're obsessed with birds, if you didn't already know that. And so that was really fun. And then we stopped for a drink at a cafe in the botanical gardens, and then we walked back and got back on the ship and ended up having a late lunch on the ship. So that's something that I would definitely recommend if you are doing a cruise, is to get off the ship, do whatever you want in the port, and then get back on the ship for lunch. Because unless there's a restaurant or something that you really want to try in the port stop, or unless you're doing a shore excursion, which we didn't end up doing for any of our port stops. We didn't book any shore excursions because I find that they tend to be quite overpriced, and I just like to explore a place myself. But I mean, everybody's different. Some people prefer to have an organized tour, or if there are special things that you want to see. But I definitely recommend getting back on the ship to have your lunch, because it seems like a waste to go spend money unless there's something that you really want to. Like, everything's included on the ship, so why wouldn't you just get back on and enjoy what's included? So we tended to do that most days, and you can always get back off if there's something else you want to see. Like, you don't have to stay on the ship. And some days we would have until like 2 or 3 p.m. to get back on the ship. Some days it was like 4, 5 o'clock, 7 o'clock one day. So it kind of varied how much time you had in the ports. We had our first day in Wellington, and then the second day was in Napier, which was beautiful. That's like an Art Deco town in New Zealand. Again, this was all the North Island of New Zealand. And we just hopped off, we walked around a little bit, then we went to the aquarium, and the aquarium was really good. However, I feel like it was a little overpriced for the amount of stuff there was to do. It was quite a short, you could do it in like an hour or two, and I think it was like $30 or something. So a little bit overpriced, I think. But it was really good. We got to see some penguins, we got to see a whole bunch of marine life. And then I think the next day was Tauranga, and I hope I'm saying that correctly, Tauranga. And that was beautiful. I think that was probably one of my absolute favorite days, was in Tauranga, because they have this beautiful mountain which was unfortunately closed. I think they had extreme weather and there was like a landslide, which is really devastating, because I think there was some fatalities. So that was all kind of roped off and closed off. We couldn't go up there. I would have loved to go for that hike, but we walked around the beach and then we walked to a lookout point, and you had a beautiful view of the mountain and the water, and it was just absolutely stunning. And then we walked along the main street and had a look in some souvenir shops, gift shops, and then we got a coffee and walked through the market. So they had these markets on, and that was really nice to see. I just love to walk through a market and see all the different things that people are making and creating and selling. And then the next day we got to Auckland, I'm pretty sure. I may have these a little bit out of order, but anyway, we did a day in Auckland, and I honestly wasn't that impressed by Auckland. I think it just felt a little bit like just a city. We didn't get to really see much, and again, that could have been because we didn't book any excursions or anything, but when we got there, it felt very much like Melbourne. It felt just like a city. And so we ended up getting an Uber to the zoo, and we had a day at the zoo, which was really fun. I love just going for a walk through the zoo, seeing all the different animals, and I did definitely overpack. I packed like 5 dresses, 4 dresses. That's not too bad. I didn't end up wearing this dress. I did wear all of these though, so that was not too bad. And I got myself this matching set on clearance before we left. It was a little bit of an impulse buy. I probably didn't need it, and I just didn't end up feeling like confident enough to wear it. I feel like it's a little bit out there. And then the next day we were in Bay of Islands. Am I missing one of the stops? Wellington, Napier, Tauranga, Auckland, Bay of Islands. Was there one other place? All right, I'm back. I just checked. So that was correct. We did 5 port stops. And I also forgot to mention that when we were in Wellington, we also did the museum. So that was really good to see, because you could learn a little bit about the history of Wellington and a little bit about New Zealand. And yeah, it was just interesting to see. And then, yeah, our last port stop was in the Bay of Islands. So what we did is we got off and we walked. They did have shuttle buses from the port to the town if you wanted to, if you didn't want to walk, but it was only like a kilometre walk, I think. So we chose to walk along the beach, and we saw some great birds. We saw some new birds, which was really exciting. I feel like we got the most birds in Bay of Islands, and just got some photos and then went for a little walk along the town. It felt very like South Pacific to me. It felt very like small town, beachy town. There wasn't a lot happening there. I think what is really good to do in Bay of Islands is to get a boat tour to take you around the Bay of Islands, so like a scenic boat tour, which would have been nice. But again, I was very happy to just go for a walk and see by foot what we could, get some photos, and then headed back to the ship. Again, had some lunch on board as always. And I'm just trying to think of like what else to tell you. I mean, they have every night, they have some form of entertainment. They put on a lot of shows on the cruise. So they have different performances, musical performances. They had a comedian and like a magician one night. They had acrobatic show one night, which was really cool. They had a piano bar where they had a pianist come and play and take song requests, which Alex and I really loved. We went to that a few times. And they had live music, so they had a band that was absolutely amazing. And then they had a bunch of duos, musical duos, so like guitar and singing or piano and singing and violin, and they had this violin trio as well, which were really good. Of course, there's like shops on board. I bought a little bit of skincare, which was exciting. Got my Moisture Surge stocked up a bit more because it's all duty free. And yeah, we just had a really fun time. So I'm pretty much like half unpacked. Now I'm gonna actually put everything away. I have a little bit of washing to do. That was actually something that was really handy. They do have laundry rooms, laundrettes on the cruise ship. So Alex and I did our laundry about partway through. So I actually don't have that much dirty washing to do, which is kind of handy. But anyway, I just thought I would come on here and catch up with you. It feels like it has been forever. I actually took a really big break from social media, from YouTube, from uploading. There were various reasons, and I will talk about it a little bit soon, but just really needed a break. And I'm still feeling exhausted. Obviously the cruise was not as relaxing as I had thought it would be. It was really fun and we did a lot of different things and had a really good time, but it was quite exhausting. The travel sickness, the time difference, there's a 2-hour time difference from Australia to New Zealand, or from Melbourne to New Zealand, and so I think that kind of messed around with me a bit, and a few late nights. I'm not used to going to bed so late. Alex and I go to bed very early most nights, so yeah, it kind of knocked me around a little bit. I'm gonna take a very, very, very relaxing weekend. Gonna take some time to have a very relaxing weekend and just get back into routines, rhythms. I'm sure I will be back here with more videos soon, but I just wanted to catch you up about our trip, share a little bit about what's been happening, and I'm really excited to share more with you soon. I feel like this is going to be a really good year. I have a really good feeling about it. So I hope you're going well. Let me know in the comments what has been happening in your world. Let me know if you've ever been on a cruise, or if you've ever been to New Zealand, or if you've ever been on a cruise to New Zealand. It's definitely something that I think is worth doing. It's probably not something I would do again, is such a long cruise, unless, Alex and I talked about this a bit, unless it was somewhere where you are stopping pretty much every day and you don't have as many sea days. I think the sea days were really tough because by the 4th day we were like, we have done so much already on the ship. You kind of get a little bit antsy. You want to get off, you want to go for a walk, you want to have some fresh air. Because it wasn't the best weather, everything was kind of closed up and you couldn't even go out onto some of the decks at one point because it was so choppy. So yeah, that was a little challenging, but definitely fun, and I definitely want to go back to New Zealand. It was beautiful. I want to go see the South Island next. I've heard that it's absolutely stunning. So much more to do, so much more to see as always. But yeah, I'm sending you all my love. Thanks for being here. Thanks for watching. Thanks for catching up with me while I unpack and make a bit more of a mess. Now I'm going to clean all this up, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.